Modern men are waking up. They are waking up to how certain cards in the deck are stacked against them. These intelligent modern young men are too aware of statistics. They are too aware of how they can become a statistic, and they do not want to partake in games where they are going to be at the adverse end of a statistical outcome. Let's start with marriage. It's become apparent that in the current time, marriage has become worse and worse of a deal for the modern man. Not only does the modern man have to contend with the legal system continually stacking statistical outcomes against them, family court, custody court, alimony decision outcomes, these men are continually getting the short end of the stick. And these are men of all ages who are suffering these outcomes. Let's talk about the young men for a moment. The newest Pew Research study shows you happen to have only 30% of young women 18 to 30 claiming to be single. Meanwhile, you have about 65% of men 18 to 30 who are claiming to be single. And I don't know about you, but I tend to trust the men and when they say that they're single or in a relationship a bit more than these women when they claim that they're single or in a relationship. Just think about it. How does it make sense that men 18 to 30, 65% would claim that they are single? Meanwhile, only 30% of women of that same age are claiming that they're single. It's a statistical mismatch. Only a few solutions would be these women that are claiming they're in a relationship don't actually realize that their male partner is with multiple female partners, perhaps. Another possibility is that these modern women, ages 18 to 30, are dating in the dating pool of men 30 or above. Regardless, it's clear that modern men have a lot of disadvantages in this time. You look at the current wealth allocation compared to boomers when they were in the age that the current Gen Z or the current Gen A is in right now. They had a much greater pool of the total wealth pie. Not to mention, boomers didn't have to contend with rising inflation costs, which has been a tax, an additional tax from the federal government on the layman people for several decades ongoing. They did not have to contend with rising property costs to buy homes, complex home building laws, making home building difficult, such as seen in California, thereby keeping the homeowners association and the people who vote on these things and the homeowners themselves happy with their higher and rising cost price of their home asset. I'm proud of you for clicking on this video. There's something that has brought you here. Some force. Modern men are waking up. They are waking up to their disadvantages. They are waking up to their disadvantages in the schooling system of how up to 80% of their teachers are, and they are understandably going to champion the female students a bit more in their endeavors, understand the endeavors of the female students a bit more. And for the male students in the schooling system, it's going to be a lot harder to find a healthy male mentor who will holistically understand that man's male perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, men are waking up to disadvantages such as the cognition of the men's brain developing slightly slowly, the frontal cortex developing slightly slower compared to the women's. Primitive times of men, the women having to go and be more of the socialite for the couple around the neighboring clans and the neighboring tribe, whereas the man simply would have to go out and hunt, and their brain was perhaps a lot more adept and well developed in things such as the cerebellum, and the more action controlled parts of the brain of men are more developed. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the differences, it's important that enlightened modern men wake up to not hating women, but understanding the differences between women and men, understanding the divine masculine, understanding the divine feminine. It's important that we as modern men understand that there's an agenda out against us, out against our divine masculinity, out against our testosterone, out against what makes us men. We must arm ourselves with knowledge. We must seek knowledge itself. We must be willing to go seek knowledge beyond what the mainstream will continually feed us day to day. We must empower our diet. We must empower our body with action and movement. And one thing I will say is, You don't necessarily owe your neighborhood anything. You don't necessarily owe your city anything or your country anything. If you've truly woken up to the situation you have been presented with in the Western world as a man, you've lived in their world filled with microplastics that's killed your testosterone, that's killed your drive as a man, you live in their world filled with microplastics, pornography, seed oils, sugars in every single food, impossibility of finding natural food, natural resources from the earth to put into your body and have healthy processes. Not have a foggy brain to think clearly, think about ways to make yourself happy, to build a life, to make yourself happy, to escape. You lived in their world for too long. It's your time to arm yourself with knowledge and build a better world for yourself. And just remember, you don't necessarily owe this Western world anything. You are a modern man who is woken up. You can go do whatever you choose. All you have to do is get some financial freedom under your belt, and then you're set. Independence. You have time as a man. Your reproductive window is very long. It could go into the 60s if you so choose. There's no reason to be panicking at this time. The male suicide rate is about 75 to 80% of all suicides. Why do you think this is? Why is this not a 50 to 50 more even proportion between the sexes from what we know about the population? That is about 50 to 50% men and women, 1-to-1. It has to do with the male experience. The male experience as a young man is very brutal. It is a very brutal process, and not all men will make it through. If you've made it through when you become an adult man and you've made the decision, you will never do that to yourself, which all modern men should do. And just remember, you owe this Western world nothing. You don't necessarily owe this Western world anything. Whether you choose to build here, bring your empowered modern men ideals here, and build a family here based on those ideals, and let that family live on into the next generation and bear fruit, then that's entirely your decision. But I'm here to tell modern men in this world that they built for you, that poisoned you, you don't owe them anything. You deserve the freedom to explore. You have time. Once you have the money, if not, you already have it. Go out there, live a life, enjoy, do all the research you can do possible, link up with some people. My suggestions would be do the hostel experience at some of the best rated hostels. Go on city tours soon as you get there and make friends on the tours. Live a life of happiness, adventure. That's how men were designed to be. We were designed to be explorers, conquerors, hunters. We're not designed to be cubed up in a cubicle as a man all the time. So with that being said, I'm so proud of you for waking up. Any negative feelings you have towards waking up as a modern man and the situation that is against you, well, just remember, those are valid feelings. Men don't often get their feelings validated, but I'm here to do that for you today. Any negative sentiment you may have towards how you have been treated in the dating scene, just remember those are valid feelings, especially if you're a young man. Based on data from Match.com, we now know that men are more valued as they get older. This is likely because men are valued on things outside of looks. Perhaps it's things like experiences and knowledge and resources. Based on Match.com data at that same time, for women, it seems like beyond the early 20s, their value just kind of slowly declines as far as their ELO rating on these Match.com websites. With that being said, take your time as a modern young man and just recognize that this is what the situation is. It's not necessarily meant to be easy for you at this time. There's a much larger bright side about waking up. You're armed with that knowledge. You are now dangerous. You now are armed with the knowledge that you have all this time. You can now think with a larger time window and make wiser, more powerful decisions. You can go to sleep rest assured knowing you have this advantage. You have this time. With that being said, I'm going to be out of here. Leave a like, comment for YouTube's Overlord algorithm. We know that things like big tech like to suppress things like men's voices at this time. I'm out.